Imagine strapping like 15 to 20 pounds of crushed glass directly to your body.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a lot.
Right. And add heavy pearls to that and spun metal. Now imagine carrying all of that weight for 12 hours straight.
Right, while smiling the whole time.
Exactly. While smiling, while dancing, standing under this intense, multi-directional lighting. I mean, that is the actual physical reality of wearing 2026's absolute biggest bridal trend.
It really is. It's a massive physical commitment.
Yeah. We aren't just talking about, picking out a pretty dress here. We are talking about wearing a literal piece of architecture.
When you step into the world of high-end bridal fashion, you're suddenly dealing with like engineering, physics, light manipulation.
Totally.
And it can be incredibly disorienting for anyone trying to navigate it for the first time.
Which is exactly why we are doing this deep dive today.
Yeah.
Because if you are trying to master wedding fashion and styling, you cannot guess your way through it.
No, absolutely not. It's too expensive to guess.
You need a blueprint. And today we are pulling our blueprint directly from the article section of the Weddizer website.
Such a great resource.
It really is. If you haven't used the Weddizer website for niche fashion and styling purposes, you are honestly missing out on a serious strategic advantage.
Yeah, you can find exactly how to deal with wedding events through the guidance they offer.
Right. Their article section is just packed with guidance related to niche bridal trends. It cuts right through the noise.
Well, they do the heavy lifting of curation, which is essential. I mean, the sheer volume of options out there can cause decision fatigue before you've even tried on a single garment.
Oh, for sure. So today, we're zeroing in on a comprehensive guide they published regarding this massive 2026 trend. It's officially titled Shimmering Embellishments.
A very fitting title.
Okay, let's unpack this, because how do we actually navigate this overwhelming world? And, why is this specific Weddizer guide pointing to heavy materials, sequins, beads, metallic threads, as the ultimate secret to modern bridal elegance?
Well, that is the core question, isn't it? My goal today is to extract the underlying mechanics of why these specific materials are dominating the runway right now.
Right.
And more importantly, how you can actually apply this knowledge. Because we aren't just going to look at what is trending. We need to understand the science of the fabric.
I love that. The science of the fabric.
Yeah, like why does a specific glass bead alter the silhouette of one body type but completely overwhelm another? If you understand the mechanics, you can control the aesthetic.
Okay, so before we can even talk about styling a full silhouette, we have to understand the raw materials, the anatomy of sparkle, basically.
The anatomy of sparkle, I like that.
Right. So reading through the Weddizer breakdown of these three foundational materials, so that's sequins, beads, and metallic threads, I kept trying to visualize how they function together on a single piece of fabric.
Mm-hmm.
And it hit me. It is exactly like designing the lighting for a high-end home.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it. Walk me through that comparison.
Okay, so think about sequins. The guide defines sequins as these small, highly reflective discs sewn onto the fabric.
Right.
If you want a bold, glamorous appearance, that's your go-to. So in a house, sequins are your bold, directional spotlights.
Ah, I see.
They demand immediate attention. They catch a camera's flash instantly and bounce it straight back.
It is a very aggressive, direct bounce of light, for sure. You use a sequin when you want, zero ambiguity about the fact that you are the center of the room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you can't light a whole house with just harsh spotlights.
Yeah.
Right? You need balance.
Yeah.
That's where beads come in.
The structural element.
Yeah. The guide notes that beadwork, which ranges from heavy pearls to cut crystals, adds dimension and elegance. So beads are your textured architectural lighting.
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
They aren't just reflecting light. Their physical shape creates actual depth and microshadows on the dress.
What's fascinating here is how the Weddizer article points out that these elements serve structural purposes, not just decorative ones.
Way structural, like physically holding the dress together.
Well, more like dictating how it falls. When you sew thousands of glass or crystal beads onto silk, you fundamentally change the drape and tension of that fabric.
Oh, wow. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, you are basically building a three-dimensional surface that forces the fabric to fall in a very specific weighted line.
So it's essentially visual and physical architecture.
Precisely. By strategically placing these heavy, shimmering details, a designer can actually highlight curves or completely redefine a waistline.
That is wild.
It really is. It is an optical illusion created by manipulating where the light hits the garment and how the fabric succumbs to gravity. You draw the human eye exactly where you want it to go.
Which brings us to the third material,
Hmm.
the metallic threads.
Right, the gold, silver, or bronze fibers woven directly into the embroidery.
Yeah, so in my lighting analogy, metallic threads are the warm ambient glow. They don't shout like a sequin does.
No, they're much softer.
They act as a diffuser, right? Making the whole garment feel incredibly expensive and warm without blinding anyone.
And that ambient glow is crucial for the transition element that the source highlights.
What do you mean by transition element?
So, a dress utilizing metallic threads and subtle beads will sparkle very gently in the natural, diffused sunlight of, like, a daytime ceremony.
Okay.
But the moment the sun goes down and those hard, directional evening lights hit the dance floor, those same metallic threads suddenly ignite.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, you effectively get two entirely different dresses based purely on the color temperature of the room.
That is such a smart way to maximize a single garment.
Mm.
But obviously, a sequin spotlight or a metallic thread looks drastically different depending on the cultural context, right?
Right, and the cut of the dress.
Absolutely. And Weddizer gives us a phenomenal cross-section of styles here, starting with heavily embellished lehengas for South Asian weddings.
The lehenga is arguably the ultimate canvas for this 2026 trend. I mean, the sheer volume of the skirt provides maximum surface area.
And it's not just surface area. It's a master class in utilizing all three of our lighting types.
Oh, for sure.
You have the metallic embroidery, often utilizing deep historical techniques like Zardozi acting as the ambient base.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the architectural beads, creating these intricate, heavy borders, and sequins scattered throughout to catch the light as she moves. But looking at the physics of it, how on earth is a bride supposed to carry that much weight?
That's a valid question.
We are talking about dense metallic thread and glass.
Well, that is where the structural techniques of South Asian design really shine. You cannot just sew 20 pounds of embellishment onto a flimsy skirt.
Right, it would just fall apart.
Exactly. The underlying garment has to be engineered. They use reinforced waistbands and sometimes internal netting or canvas to distribute that extreme weight across the hips.
Wow.
Because if the weight sat solely on the sheer top layers, the fabric would simply shred.
It's incredible engineering. So now let's contrast that static heavy structure with the rising trend for Western brides, the full sequin wedding gown.
Right, a totally different approach.
Yeah, the guide notes that Western brides are moving toward entirely sequined silhouettes, where the goal is pure fluidity.
It is a completely different application of the tension we just talked about.
How so?
Well, instead of heavy architectural beadwork holding the fabric down, a full sequin gown often utilizes a bias cut.
A bias cut, what does that do?
So the fabric is cut at a diagonal angle, which allows it to stretch and drape fluidly over the body.
Oh, I see.
And because the sequins are smaller and lighter, every single time the bride shifts her weight or even breathes, the dress shimmers like water.
That sounds beautiful. So the lehenga uses embellishment to create intricate, grounded patterns, while the Western gown uses it to emphasize continuous motion.
Exactly. The material adapts to the cultural and aesthetic goal.
Okay, but I have to push back on one of the concepts the Weddizer guide brings up here.
Oh, what's that?
It talks about minimalist dresses, specifically noting that brides who want understated elegance are using subtle beading around the necklines or the sleeves.
Mm-hmm.
But wait a minute. If I am a true minimalist, clean lines, zero fuss, architectural simplicity, doesn't adding any reflective surface inherently defeat the purpose?
I can see why you'd think that.
The human eye naturally tracks movement and light. So if I want the focus on my face, why am I putting crushed glass on my cuffs?
That is a very fair critique. I mean, it sounds like an oxymoron to have, like, sparkling minimalism.
Right.
But this assumes minimalism means the complete and total absence of detail. In high-end design, minimalism is actually about the extreme restraint of detail.
Restraint, okay. But how does light restraint work when a bead is literally designed to catch your eye?
Think about the concept of framing. The article specifically points to beading on the extreme edges of the garment, the neckline, the very edge of the sleeve.
Okay.
By restricting the texture to the borders, you maintain the clean, unbroken visual field of the dress itself. The subtle beading acts as a frame rather than the main subject.
Oh.
It prevents the minimalist gown from looking flat or sterile under professional lighting. The source calls it a refined sparkle, which simply means controlling the light rather than letting the light control the dress.
Ah, I see. So if I paint an entire wall gold, that's maximalism.
Right.
But if I leave the wall pristine white, but hang a masterfully carved, thin gold picture frame, that's minimalism. The frame draws your eye to the center. to the face.
Precisely. The embellishment is serving a very specific, controlled function.
That makes total sense. But we really have to talk about the physical realities of actually wearing these garments, because the Weddizer article gets very specific about the holistic styling ecosystem.
Yes, it's not just the dress.
Exactly. It isn't just about the dress hanging on a mannequin. It's about how that dress interacts with your physical body. Specifically, the color theory of metallic threads against human skin.
Oh, this is where a lot of people make a very expensive mistake.
Really?
Yeah. The guide notes that gold tones naturally complement warmer skin tones, while silver and platinum shades are better suited for cooler undertones.
I feel like a lot of people dismiss that as just like basic color theory.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are dealing with metallic threads, we aren't just talking about a color swatch.
No, not at all.
You're talking about an active reflector board sitting right under your chin.
But
Right?
metallic threads don't just sit there. When a camera flash or a ballroom spotlight hits silver embroidery, it bounces a cool blue spectrum light upward onto your face.
Oh, wow.
So if you have warm, golden, or peach undertones, that cool blue light is going to clash violently with your natural skin tone.
Yikes.
It creates a sallow, almost grayish cast in photography.
That is tragic. So you could spend like $20,000 on a custom gown, and because you picked silver beads instead of champagne beads, you look washed out in every single photo.
Yes. The dress is literally fighting your natural color temperature.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. The interaction between the dress and the external environment. Because the Weddizer platform strongly advises brides to coordinate with their photographers beforehand, specifically regarding these reflective surfaces.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really underscores that you are essentially acting as the art director of your own event.
Totally.
You might have the perfect undertone match, but if a photographer hits a dress covered in 10,000 glass mirrors with a hard, direct strobe flash, what happens?
You turn into a giant glowing orb of white light.
Yeah.
The camera sensor completely blows out the exposure.
Exactly. The details of the dress just vanish, and you lose all that intricate architectural beadwork we just spent so long discussing.
So what's the fix?
The photographer needs to know to use diffusers, or bounce the flash off the ceiling to capture the shimmer without blinding the lens.
Which ties perfectly into the rest of the styling advice Weddizer provides. It's all about balancing the ecosystem.
Balance is everything.
Right. If you are wearing heavy embellishments, the guide dictates minimal jewelry. You just cannot have chandelier earrings fighting with a heavily beaded neckline.
No, you will look completely cluttered. The eye needs a place to rest.
And the same goes for makeup and hair. The recommendation is dewy, complementary makeup, avoiding heavy, dramatic, theatrical looks.
Right.
And hair should be kept to soft waves or elegant buns.
Yeah.
It all comes back to that concept of restraint. Let the 15 pounds of architectural fabric do the talking.
It requires a tremendous amount of discipline to not over-accessorize when you are already in a glamorous mindset.
Okay, so let's say you've mastered the discipline. You've survived the camera flashes, your waist didn't snap from the weight of the beads, and the night is over.
You made it.
You made it. What happens to these incredibly complex pieces of art? The article dedicates significant space to care and maintenance, and honestly, it's intense.
Well, it has to be. These are investment pieces. You are dealing with materials that oxidize, snag, and degrade if not handled correctly.
Yeah, the storage advice is very specific. You must use a breathable garment bag. No plastic whatsoever.
Because if you lock metallic threads in a plastic bag, they can oxidize and tarnish over time.
Exactly. You also need professional dry cleaning, specifically experienced in heavy embellishments, because standard chemicals can actually melt certain sequins or strip the coating right off faux pearls.
It requires long-term stewardship. You don't just shove it in the back of a closet.
Right. But looking beyond just preserving a single dress, the Weddizer piece looks forward to the future of this trend moving into 2026 and beyond.
Yeah, this part was fascinating.
And it highlights a major shift towards sustainable materials. We are talking about eco-friendly sequins and recycled beads. But I have a serious question about this.
Go ahead.
This entire industry is built on historical, over-the-top luxury. We just talked about Zardozi embroidery, which historically used pure gold and silver wire. We're talking about silk and pearls. How does a phrase like recycled plastic sequin not immediately downgrade the wow factor?
It's a fair question.
Doesn't the concept of eco-friendly luxury feel like an oxymoron in a space this traditional?
It's a very valid hesitation. But the luxury market has fundamentally redefined how it calculates value. The expert analysis in the source explains that the new luxury isn't solely about the rarity of the raw material anymore. It is about the extreme innovation behind it.
Innovation in what way? I mean, a plastic sequin is still a plastic sequin, right?
Not anymore. The chemical engineering behind modern eco-sequins, which are often made from recycled bioplastics, actually allows for more precise manufacturing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they can be engineered to be lighter, meaning you can have way more of them on a dress without adding weight.
Oh, that solves the 15-pound dress problem.
Exactly. And they can be formulated to reflect light more purely than traditional materials. So you aren't sacrificing the aesthetic at all. You are actually improving the physics of the dress while reducing the environmental footprint.
So the flex shifts from I am wearing rare materials to I am wearing ingeniously crafted, conscious materials.
Precisely. And that dovetails perfectly with the second major future trend the article identifies, hyper-personalization.
Yes, I wanted to talk about this.
Designers are utilizing advanced embroidery methods to really customize these embellishments. They aren't just buying spools of generic beadwork anymore.
Right. The article mentions customizing the embellishments to tell the bride's unique story.
Mm.
So we are basically talking about bespoke weaving.
Yes. When you combine sustainable, highly engineered materials with custom woven narratives, I mean, maybe the beads form a subtle pattern of a constellation that was in the sky on the night you met.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Or maybe metallic threads hide a specific quote within the hemline. You perfectly capture the contemporary desire for true individuality.
It transforms the dress from just a beautiful object into a deeply personal artifact.
Absolutely.
And this brings us right back to the immense value of utilizing a platform like Weddizer's article section. If you just walked into a boutique blindly looking for a sparkly dress, you are walking into a minefield.
You would be entirely at the mercy of whatever is on the rack.
Right. You might end up with silver threads that wash out your warm undertones. You might buy a dress so heavy the bodice literally collapses because it lacks internal corsetry. Or you might have your photographer blow out every single photo because you didn't know how to manage the reflective surfaces.
It is entirely too much money and emotional energy to just leave to chance.
Exactly. But by utilizing this specific Weddizer guide, by breaking down the core differences between sequins, beads, and metallic threads, you have a blueprint.
You do?
You know how to balance structural comfort with the lighting of your venue.
Yeah.
You know how to achieve pure, undeniable glamour while utilizing the restraint of minimalism. So what does this all mean?
What?
It means you don't have to be intimidated by the blizzard of tool and glass. The strategic guidance is out there to help you control the aesthetic, rather than letting the aesthetic control you.
This raises an important question, though. We've spent this time breaking down the mechanics of light reflection, the structural engineering of heavy embellishments, and this shift towards sustainable personalization.
Right. The physics and the future of it all.
And that text explicitly leaves us lingering on that growing trend of bespoke storytelling through fabric. It pushes us to really consider the ultimate purpose of what we wear during these massive life milestones.
Yeah.
So I'll leave you with this. If you had the opportunity to design a pattern of eco-friendly beads and metallic threads to be structurally woven into your own garment, what personal story or hidden intimate message would you want those shimmering details to tell under the evening lights?